Hey guys, Jason here, Samco Workshop. Today we're going to be talking about water problems with your vehicle. If you're going to drive through water, there are some issues here that you have to understand. I do this a lot. I spend a ton of time in water, and you got to understand what you're facing here and how to do it the right way, or you're going to wreck your machine. So first one, the biggest fear, everybody's biggest fear is hydrolock in the engine. How that happens, understand an internal combustion engine is, hang on, I'm sorry, just sucked in a bug. There we go. A internal combustion engine is pistons that are compressing a gas and fuel mixture in there, and then it explodes and boom and does all that. Well, an engine cannot do that form or function that properly when you have water inside of those compression chambers. It can't do it. You get water in your oil, you got problems. But water through the intake that then comes into the engine that way, when those pistons are slamming up, they hit that, it can break all kinds of things, crack blocks, cause major problems, and you hydrolock that engine, meaning it's done. Sometimes you can fix that, but the damage is very serious for it. So you don't want to do that. How does hydrolock happen? Water going into your intake. Okay, every vehicle has an air filter on it. That air filter gets air in from someplace. It's the easy way for things to get into your actual engine. That's how air goes straight through that air filter, comes right in and goes right into your compression chambers on your on your cylinders. So you have to beat that. How do we beat that is not letting water get in your air intake. Find out where it is on your vehicle. Make sure that you keep that side out of the water. These people, that's why they hit these puddles real hard, running water throws up everywhere. That's bad. Water going into your intake is a very bad thing. Water coming up to the top of your hood is a very bad thing. Water getting into your air intake is a bad thing. It's the reason so many people that spend a lot of time in water run snorkels. That snorkel is a high water intake, meaning that the water has to be all the way up there to actually get in, and many of them have like a dropout in the bottom, so even if water does get in, it drops out of a hole in the bottom rather than getting sucked into there. So it's important to understand that, but this is the worst thing you can do. And the best way to do it, go through water fast or go through water that's too deep. Those are the things. But everybody loves the videos where they hit the water shoots everywhere, and it's all real cool. It's bad. Okay, bad. So hydrolocking your engine is a big concern. Do not go anywhere near water that is going to be deep enough that you are going to get water into your intake. And that doesn't mean that you start out that way and you're okay, because inside of there, if you hit a wash or a hole and bloop, it drops in, water gets sucked into there, like that, you're done. Clunk, 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 your engine's done. Okay, so this is a very serious one you got to be careful of. Know where your intake is, know where it's at, know how to protect it, and not let any water get in there. Number one. Number two, your differentials, okay? Differentials have a little button on there, a little valve, okay? Matter of fact, I just, it's funny because I've always, on every one of my trucks, I change out that valve on the back of on the rear differentials, okay? I've talked about this even on my Tacoma, made videos on it on my other channel, but your differential housing, here's your pumpkin in the back end for your, here's your differential. There is a valve right here, a little check valve, might even be up on a little more of a little hose like this, but there's a valve right on the top of this here that is designed by engineers to allow venting of the heat that's inside of the differential, but then as soon as the differential cools, it sucks down vacuum style and closes. So it kind of opens and closes as it needs to. Well, it's by design that the second your differentials hit water and it cools down, it's supposed to and make sure it stays closed so no water gets sucked into your differential housing. When that vacuum does that and sucks it closed, a lot of times it will, if it's already underwater when it does that, it sucks that water into there through the vacuum type system, and you end up with water inside your differentials. Water and oil don't mix. You have lubrication in your differentials. As it gets watered down, you start breaking things and causing problems. So a lot of people will relocate this differential housing, okay? And I'm showing you some things in here. I'll show you what I did with my Tacoma too. ARB makes an amazing kit for pretty much every vehicle out there that will take this valve that is on here and relocate it somewhere up. Like I put mine on my Tacoma, I put it behind the driver's side tail light, but put it way up there so that as I'm going through water here that's over that, it doesn't matter because that breather, that vent breather is up here now. So it's out of the water. Prevents me from getting any water built up in my differentials. Jeep, for example, already has this done on both of their differentials on there. There was a guy Downtime, maybe. I can't remember his name. Downtime Lost. I'm not quite sure who it was, but one of these guys has a ZR2. Just got a ZR2 a few months ago, and he had made a video and he talked about how he rerouted his diff breather tubes, as we call them. And then another truck channel that does a lot of news and stuff actually ripped on him for that, saying, like, why would this guy do this? This engineer engineered this to be this way. This is supposed to be a perfectly good system. I trust the engineer more than I trust this guy who's just going to put a tube on it and think it's going to be better. And it was kind of, I was watching this video thinking, man, Mr. Know-It-All on the truck stuff, you have really no idea what you're talking about here, and these valves fail all the time. Sure enough, so I didn't, I didn't say nothing, but I'm thinking to myself, this guy's not right. It's telling him he's wrong, and he should trust the engineers, because we know engineers fail at stuff all the time. This guy who's doing it, this is the way we've done it for the last 20 years. We relocate the diff breathers. It's what we do. That way there's no chance of water getting into your differentials. And that's exactly what he did. And that's exactly what I would have done, and he did it exactly right. Yet this guy's telling him that he should trust the engineer. I just watched a video today on another guy with a ZR2 down in Florida, runs a lot of trails out there in the water all the time, and he got into some water, and he had to drain his differential on the same truck, brand new ZR2. He had to pull that diff cover off, or he had to drain the water out of that thing many times already, because that valve is not working and he's getting water sucked in there. So and so he just rerouted his diff breathers. If you are going to spend time in water, reroute the differential breathers. Reroute them. ARB. Okay, I'll put that right here for you. ARB makes a kit for about, that could be $100, but it'll do both your breathers. Really gives you enough hose, and it's a super strong, stiff hose. This quality. It's not going to break down over time, but it'll let you relocate one or both of your diffs right up into the engine compartment or wherever you want to put them, so that they are protected for that. Or you could simply just take that valve and put a new tube on it and do it for cheaper. But either way, get those diffs, the breather tubes, relocated up out of the way, so that you're not constantly sucking water into your differentials. It's bad. And then you got to change the fluid constantly, almost every time you're in water that's over the top of the differentials. Which means if your wheel, if you think about that here, let's put it down here where you can see, if this is your wheel, okay, here's your pumpkin in the middle of it, okay, your axle in there, okay, we've got a diff breather right here. If you are deeper than this, than 3/4 of the way of your truck tires, that deep of water, you're sucking water into your differential housing, okay? If that thing fails. But if you can reroute that somewhere up here, it makes that huge difference. So something to think about. Next one, electrical connections, all right? There is a reason that vehicles that we've got right here, okay, this one right here, know your fording capability of your vehicle. This one is important because it usually doesn't relate to the diff breathers. It relates to the electrical connections in there, okay? You have electrical connections all over your vehicle, underneath, and behind. Some have them behind the wheel well. Some have them on the lower parts of the engine. There's electrical connections everywhere. When those electrical connections are constantly, when they get wet, and then they dry out, they get wet, they dry out, they're going to start to fail over time. Okay, you want to use dielectric grease, you want to protect them, you want to make sure they're taken care of. You have to treat those correctly, and the more submerged you take your truck, the more electrical components you're going to mess with, the more problems you're going to have. Okay, even that guy that we just talked about, that I said down in Florida down there, he ran through one deep big puddle, and when he came out the other side, his gauges were going, he went into limp mode, every light was flashing, all kinds of problems. Why? Because he got stuff wet that shouldn't be wet. You have to know the fording capability of your vehicle and avoid getting too far down there, or you have to protect all of these electrical connections. On my Tacoma, I went through every one of them, disconnected them, filled them with dielectric grease, put them back together, and I made the point of doing that about every 6 months, just to make sure everything was spot on perfect in there, so that they didn't cause any problems. But if you're driving in water a lot, these are a major concern. You have to protect the electrical connections in there so that you don't have problems later on. And then the other one, the big one, is the underwater dangers. Okay, these things hit all the time. We say it constantly, walk your holes. You're walking them to see if there's any deep ruts, any washes. I'm showing you a ton of video clips in here, but if you got a wash that comes through there and it's underneath a puddle, you don't know it's there, you're in big trouble. Big holes in there. If somebody got stuck in that hole already and now there's a bunch of sticks and logs and jam ups and things like that in there that they were just shoving under the wheels to try and get that vehicle out, and now you're going to hit those, they're all angling at you. You're going to be poking through things, breaking things, busting pans. You're going to have all kinds of trouble, ripping CV axles, the boots. You're going to wreck a lot of things. Walk the holes first so you can watch out for any underwater dangers. Okay, and you can make sure of it. Also, go slow. Slow and controlled wins in the water all day. You'd be amazed what you can do if you go slow and controlled. If you're just flying through it, you're wrecking stuff like crazy. So there's a little quick tip for you on the best way to handle water if you got to drive through water regularly. Like I said, I'm down here in the swamp. Water is my whole life. I am in water all the time. There's no way around it. Whether it's just going through some holes, dealing with the mud, or having to, cross where creeks are overflowing, rivers are overflowing, swamps that, so much rainwater hit the swamps and they flood it out. Water here is my number one thing I got to deal with. Slow, controlled, set your vehicle up to handle it, and be prepared so you know what you're doing. So, little tip for you. Thanks for watching.